Now, Megan mentioned reaction. We have a headline making response from U.S. President Donald Trump. He's seizing on Prime Minister Carney's announcement to make a threat earlier this morning about trade talks. We're now less than a day to his deadline for the latest tariff threat against Canada. And Trump put out this board on social media, this post right here, just after midnight, saying Canadian backing for Palestinian statehood, quote, will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Earlier this week, Trump criticized a similar announcement from UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, saying it was rewarding Hamas. Now, Carney was asked by reporters yesterday if he consulted with the White House ahead of that announcement. Here's some of his response.
We make our own independent foreign policy positions, and when we see opportunities, when we see necessity, which is what we see in this case, given the retreat of the prospect of a two-state solution because of the facts on the ground, as I explained, when we see that possibility and we see the combination of an ability to influence because of our own voice and actions, but because of others and other processes that are being put in place.
Okay, let's bring in Janice McGregor from Washington. Janice, the Prime Minister did not answer that question directly about whether he spoke with Trump. But how does all of this factor into the trade war?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to note, Katie, is that European countries, most notably France, which has been out front leading on this, but also in recent hours, the United Kingdom, they were out ahead of Canada when it comes to Palestinian recognition. And yet, Trump has not chucked the trade deals that he reached with them. Instead, this appears to be the latest play to crank up tensions, get attention for himself, also to leverage America's economic power in support of boosting its foreign policy, which continues to stand with the Israeli government. Also something that isolates Canada, which, remember, is the only major trading partner of the U.S. other than China to have retaliated in return for Trump's trade strategy. Bloomberg this morning is reporting that Trump is going to be speaking with the Mexican president, the other significant North American partner, but not the one that has put counter tariffs on U.S. goods. We don't have any word of a call with Mark Carney today. It all whiffs of another attempt to cajole, intimidate, bully Canada. And of course, just yesterday afternoon, we saw Trump out destabilizing things again, changing the economic calculations of harm for Canada by adding new national security tariffs on copper, also changing the de minimis rules for the customs duties that are payable on small packages as they enter the U.S. This is a sharp tactical contrast, these very public moves and statements on social media, to the way Canadian officials are conducting themselves, keeping their own counsel still this morning, I just checked, as these end games continue. We know the Canadians have been frustrated that they would be preferring to have a more conventional negotiation where you put a proposal on the table, a serious counter proposal comes back, you move towards a substantial, a durable agreement. Plainly, that isn't what's happening right now. But none of the apparent deals that Trump has made with any of the other countries ahead of this deadline have actually resulted in any kind of a text that's been signed to bring them into effect, which means that the planned signing ceremony this afternoon at the White House could be kind of all the more dramatic and unpredictable for the cameras.
Okay, so Janice, Canada's negotiating team there in Washington, they're trying to negotiate Canada's way out of tariffs, especially in the light of this threat. But there's also a legal challenge against Trump's tariffs. That is moving into a new phase in Washington today. Set up the court hearing today for us.
Indeed, because there are some Americans who understand that their president is massively overstepping the office of the president with his trade strategy, believing that tariff taxation rests with the House and treaty making when it comes to international partners is the job of the Senate. Congressional authority undermined when you have the person in the White House making top rules about trade arbitrarily. There are 8 different court cases so far that have been launched to stop this. 2 of them have now reached the stage of being at a federal circuit court for appeal, and the arguments on those begin this morning. Here's the plaintiff in one of them, David Levi. He runs a small business in Charlottesville, Virginia, that makes science kits for kids, but the parts for those kits are all imported. Take a listen.
It's just very hard to plan a business when the tariffs can change in a few weeks and it takes months for parts to come in and it takes a year or more to design a new product, set up the supply chain, and get everything dialed in.
Defining and constraining what someone in the presidency can do is a fundamental legal question. That's why people believe these arguments are eventually headed for the Supreme Court. Would be a final high-stakes ruling on this. Todd Tucker is the Director for Industrial Policy and Trade at the Roosevelt Institute.
Some kind of favorable, even partial victory for the plaintiffs in these cases will sort of put the global economy back on a more secure footing. And if the courts end up taking away the tariff tool from Trump, which they may do, that's going to mean that a lot of the dynamics and the bullying that Trump has been doing is going to fade away or be really reduced.
Court watchers reminded me this week that often judges are conservatives. They rarely go against what elected officials do. They're reluctant to do that. So we'll see if the economic arguments here that haven't worked, maybe there will be legal arguments that do work. But if you are Canada watching this, you have to think twice about making a big concession about a tariff that, in fact, the courts might be about to bring a stop to. So that's why we have to pay attention to this case.
Yeah, these business owners, they don't like the president's tariff policy, so they challenged it in the courts, and it is the courts that will decide whether the president has overstepped his authority, and it could, again, go all the way to the Supreme Court. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.